It's a quiet evening here in Houston, and if a flower fell off your pepper plant today, here's the uncomfortable part. It warned you 5 days ago, and you probably missed every single sign. Most people blame the weather. Some blame bad luck. A lot of people just blame themselves. It's usually none of those. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly which flower on your plant is about to fall next. And there's one part of the timing almost every gardening video gets backwards. Here's the thing, nobody tells you. A pepper flower isn't just sitting there looking pretty. It's costing the plant real energy every single day. It stays open. And when the plant decides that cost isn't worth paying anymore, it cuts the flower loose on purpose. Oh yeah, on purpose. There's a tiny hinge right where the flower stem meets the branch called the abscission zone. And it's basically a self-destruct switch the plant built into itself for exactly this situation. Go touch the base of a flower stem on your plant right now. If it already feels a little rough or off color, we'll get to that in a second. If it feels totally normal, keep reading, because that hinge usually starts moving days before anything actually falls. Sign 1 isn't the flower falling. It's the little stretch of stem right behind the flower turning slightly pale or yellow before the flower ever shows a problem. That color change is the abscission zone already switching on. Sign 2 is sneakier because the plant doesn't look sick at all. No wilting, no yellow leaves, nothing that screams problem. The petals go dry and thin at the edges, almost papery. Even while the rest of the plant looks perfectly healthy, pinch one gently between 2 fingers right now. If it crackles a little instead of bending, that flower already made its decision, and there's nothing you can do for that specific one. Sign 3 isn't a flower that never opened in the first place. That's a different problem. This is a flower that opened, then closed itself back up early, sometimes on the same day. Pepper flowers pollinate themselves, but pollen still needs a window of open time to move inside the bloom. A flower that shuts that window early has basically pulled its own bed off the table. Count how many open flowers on your plant are still open right now if it's past noon where you are. Less than half still open is your plant telling you that window's already closing faster than it should. Sign 4 is one you'll only catch if you're comparing buds side by side. New flower buds start coming in noticeably smaller than the ones a few inches down the same branch. That's not random. That's rationing. Sign 5 shows up somewhere you're not even looking. The leaves, not the flowers. The leaves closest to a flower cluster start curling or drooping slightly, even when the soil underneath isn't dry at all. Check that soil anyway. Just to rule it out, 2 to 3 inches down, same as before. Dry there, and it's a watering issue. Plain and simple. Still moist, and the leaves are still curling. That's heat stress showing up in the foliage first. And the blooms on that same branch are usually next in line. Here's the twist, and it's the part that actually changes what you do about all this. It's not the heat or the cold or the dry soil that directly kills the flower. Those are just the trigger. What actually kills it is a hormone spike called ethylene that gets released right at that hinge once the stress hits a certain point. That's straight out of plant physiology research on ethylene as the abscission trigger. The stress doesn't pull the flower off. It flips a switch, and the switch does the rest. Here's what makes that useful. Instead of just interesting, ethylene doesn't spike instantly. It builds up over roughly the same few days. Those 5 signs are showing up, which means the signs and the hormone spike are running on the same clock. And if you interrupt the stress before that clock runs out, the flower can still make it. That's exactly why catching sign 1 or 2 matters so much more than catching sign 5. Once that hormone spike has already happened, spraying anything on that particular flower won't undo it. But you can absolutely stop the next cluster from ever getting there. So let's get into the fix. And here's the honest version. Almost all of it comes down to taking stress off the plant before that hormone spike gets a chance to build. That's temperature, water, pollination, and nutrition. The 4 things every extension source on pepper blossom drop actually agrees on Start with temperature and water. Since extension research on pepper environmental stress, including work referenced by the University of California's Cooperative Extension Program, points to these two as the biggest triggers by far. If afternoons are climbing past 90 degrees, rig a shade cloth or even an old sheet over a couple of stakes to block direct sun between about 1 and 4 in the afternoon. If nights are dropping below 55, throw a lightweight row cover over the plant in the evening and pull it off once the morning warms back up. For watering, stop watering on a schedule. Push a finger 2 to 3 inches into the soil near the base. Dry at that depth, water deeply until it runs through the bottom of the pot or soaks a foot down. Still moist. Skip the day entirely. Go do that finger test right now. If your plant's within reach, it takes 10 seconds and it's the single most useful check in this whole video. That one habit alone does more for blossom drop than almost anything else here. Next is pollination, and it's an easy one to skip past. If there's zero breeze where your plant is sitting, give a flowering branch a gentle shake for a few seconds every couple of days, or run a small fan nearby for an hour in the morning. Peppers self-pollinate, but the flower still needs a little movement inside it for that to actually happen. And dead still air is a quieter cause of drop that has nothing to do with heat or water at all. A back porch with a wall blocking airflow on 2 sides is exactly the kind of spot where this one gets overlooked. Lost is nitrogen. And this is the one people miss because the plant looks healthy. If your plant looks dark green and bushy but keeps dropping flowers anyway, that's not a stress problem. That's a fertilizer problem. Nitrogen pushes a pepper plant into leaf growing mode instead of flowering mode. So all that energy goes into stems and leaves instead of holding on to blooms. Skip the all-purpose feed for 1 cycle and switch to something higher in phosphorus and potassium. Or work a little bone meal into the top inch of soil around the base. If you want to know for sure, instead of guessing, a basic home soil test kit will show you the nitrogen level directly, and it's a 5-minute check that saves you from fixing the wrong thing. Give it 2 to 3 weeks before deciding whether it worked. Since nutrient shifts move slower through the plant than heat or water fixes do, those 4 things, temperature, water, pollination, and nitrogen are the part every cooperative extension source actually stands behind, and on their own they resolve most blossom drop. That's worth sitting with for a second, because it means the fix here isn't exotic. It's mostly just paying closer attention than most people already do. If you want to go further than that, there are 2 sprays. Some gardeners experiment with a dilute Epsom salt spray when magnesium deficiency is suspected, and a diluted aspirin spray for the salicylic acid it releases. Worth being straight about where these stand. They're not a standard extension recommendation for blossom drop, the way the 4 things above are, and they're not a substitute for fixing the environment. Some smaller studies have looked at salicylic acid for stress tolerance in related crops, and Epsom salt can help if a plant is genuinely magnesium deficient, but neither is proven to reliably stop blossom drop on its own. Here's how to actually tell if magnesium deficiency is even part of the picture before you bother mixing anything. Look at the older, lower leaves on the plant, not the new growth at the top. True magnesium deficiency shows up as yellowing between the leaf veins, while the veins themselves stay green, almost like a faint checkerboard pattern. If your leaves are uniformly pale or the yellowing is on new growth instead, that's a different issue, and Epsom salt isn't going to fix what you're actually looking at. If you're curious and want to try anyway, a common home mix is roughly 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt per quart of water, misted on the leaves every 2 to 3 weeks. And separately, 1 uncoated regular strength aspirin tablet per gallon of water, misted once every couple of weeks, never combined and never stronger than that. Treat both as an experiment layered on top of the real fix, not the fix itself. As for what actually changes, the temperature and watering fix is the fastest. Most people see the yellowing at the base of new stems slow down within 5 to 7 days. Pollination and nitrogen adjustments take a bit longer to show, usually 2 to 3 weeks, since they're working through the plant's growth cycle rather than an immediate condition. By week 5 or 6, if the environment piece actually held steady, small green fruit should be forming behind blooms that would have dropped a month before. This whole approach isn't just a pepper thing. Either tomatoes and eggplants run on the exact same signaling. So the same finger test, the same shade and cover approach, and the same nitrogen check work on them without any adjustment. Eggplant tends to show the papery petal sign a day or two before pepper does. So if you've got both in the same bed, let the eggplant be your early warning. That flower that already fell today, there was nothing left to do for it. But every pale stem and papery petal you see from here on is your plant handing you a 5-day head start. Catch it there. Fix the environment first. Keep doing that 10-second finger test daily. And the branches that looked like they were giving up are the ones holding fruit next month. Same plant, same weather, different outcome. Just because you caught the signal 5 days earlier than you used to